and then you get a fear that this is who I really am, this is how I am, this is the kind of power that I can exude, things like that. Then you start to become afraid of yourself. So now when God became afraid of himself, right? Come on now. Yeah. What's good, yo? So on this video, my guys, my people, right? My family, my soul, right? I want to give you a sneak peek, into the book. Let me do this by the way, so that you can see. This is the name of the book, right? As I told you, I want to re-upload it because I've done some editing, so that it can be proper. So now I just want to give you a sneak peek, right, of the whole book itself, without going into a lot of details, so that I can spare the goodness for you to indulge on your own, because this book is really, really great. Like, no cap. I know we all hype our shit up, but I truly feel this book is super. Like, it's like if God had the voice to speak, right? This is what he'd use. This is how it sounds like. After you read this book, when you read this book, this is what God sounds like. Okay? So now, I'm not expecting anybody to agree with me, right? Or whatever. But if you know, you know. So let's get into it. Now the first page, right, as you can see, is introduction. I started it saying, first things first, the better you allow yourself to feel, the easier it is to reach a higher quality of consciousness you are meant to possess. Simple, the better you allow yourself to feel, the easier it is to be who you truly are, which is a higher quality of consciousness, a higher quality of energy, a higher quality of life, resources, resourcefulness, productivity, creativity, all that, So that's the truth. Just in the first line, you get a fact, it's coming straight from the vertical spectrum of life, from the source, not from the horizontal, the 3D dimension that got all of y'all lost in these motherfucking shits, So anyway, like, okay, I want you guys to see me a little bit. You don't really have to see me like that, but like shit. So now, first page is the introduction, right? I'm just giving you a sneak peek of what you have to expect, when you get in the book. Because as you can see here, what you are looking at here is the the editing dashboard, the editing platform. So this is what I use to edit my book, basically. Now, as you can see here, it is introduction, and then we have the usual copyright, whatever that are necessary when you publish a book, and then the table of contents, right? On the table of contents, we have 10 chapters, and each chapter is a follow-up, basically, right? If you can read it properly, you're gonna understand that each chapter is a follow-up of the previous. And even if you can look at it, right, we have the grand illusion. So basically, the grand illusion is when God, right, was experiencing himself initially, right? He experienced himself through what? Through fear. How do I know that? Because as humans, for you to know yourself, you have to experience certain things, and most of those things, they have something to do with extracting fear from your reality, from your experience. So that's how I know that that's what God went through. Because as humans, the reflection of God, when we initially do something, what do? We shed off these fears, and then that's when we can be able to see what we can do properly, clearly. That's when then we can assert our intention and shit like that. So that's another video. Then number 2, co-creation, right? So basically these chapters, they follow each other. Like the one is the individual, 2 is the individual and their surroundings, 3 is the individual, their surroundings, and other individuals. I mean, 3 is the surroundings, right? 2 is the co-creation, God creating, looking at himself, right? And now he's experiencing himself. So now that's co-creation, understand? AKA when you experience, you are, that's what I say, when you experience, you are shedding off these fears, right? Because that's what experience is all about. It's about shedding off these low vibrations so that you can pop up, if that's the correct expression. I don't know what's gonna pop up in your mind, but yeah. So now number 3, right? It has to do with the surroundings. How do I know that it has to do with the surroundings? Because okay, I named it compassion, right? But where do I get the idea of surroundings from the word compassion? Because as I said, this book is basically a summary of every living thing that has ever existed is gonna relate to this, and even the way that I've formatted the book is everything like is done with intention from the very first page to the very last page. You understand? That's why it took me so long. Right now at this point I can write a book 2-3 days, I'll be done. You understand? If I wanted to, because this book initially I wrote it for about 5 days, and then all along I've just been editing and trying to make it perfect, So now number 3, compassion. Like I said, how do I know if it has to do with the surroundings, right? Because after God initially sees himself, now he wants to experience himself so that he can create himself. He then develops the surrounding, the ambience, the emotion, the feeling, that is gonna feel the creation, the space between him and him. That's the compassion, the love. That's why when you start to feel love, right, we feel like looking up or directly at the thing that we are feeling love towards. But the global international expression of love is seen by looking up. When you look up, it's like you are acknowledging that there's something that loves you, even if you cannot see it. So you can call it anyhow you want to call it, but for me I decided to use the word compassion because it resonates very clearly with the idea that I have in my mind, when I think about life, as I've demonstrated it on this book. As I said, this book is not for everybody, so I don't even want, right, as much as it is for, like, language is for everybody, let me put it this way, right? But this book itself, it won't be for people who think they know. If you think you know, then you know. You don't have to read it. But if you feel like there's more that you can learn in life, then that is exactly for you. You understand? So as I explained, compassion, how we get around the surroundings, how is compassion a surrounding? Because a feeling is a surrounding. It's what you feel. Like, look at it this way. I have a cup, right, that is empty, right? And then I put something in there, inside the cup, maybe a rock. Okay, now the cup is containing a rock, right? But it's not filled with the rock. You understand? So now we can say at this point, right, when you start to talk about life being God, you can say when God got to number 3, right? When he was creating the 3rd phase of his evolution, right, which is compassion, him being aware that there is a creation that was mirroring, right, that was a mirror, an opposite mirror reflection of what he's initially seen as himself. Because God, when he looked at himself for the first time, he became scared, right? Just like yourself, when you start to know who you truly are, you become afraid of them, But that's another video. So now That's the kind of fear that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the fear of the devil. That's lostness. That's dumbness. That's stupidity. That I don't even want to hear none of that. The lostness, the fear that I'm talking about, the fear that I'm talking about is just you acknowledging really who you are, because you wanted to see who you are, and then you get a fear that this is who I really am. This is how I am. This is the kind of power that I can exude. Things like that. Then you start to become afraid of yourself. So now, when God became afraid of himself, right, he decided to create an experience that he can look at himself, so that he can know from all aspects that he is God. Which then we became subject to those experiences for some reason, which is obviously a good thing. Hopefully. So when he got to number 3, right, after he got this reflection, and he created and then he went back initially, right, to how he looked at himself as the great unseen. But now he had already seen himself. So it's like when they say a brain that is when a mind is altered by an experience, right, it can never go to its initial state. It's the very same thing. God is mind. So that mind went into an experience. It saw itself, right? And then it went back because it became afraid of that, So now we are still in this process. It's not like that thing happened way back then. No, it's still happening now. This is that's why they say life is now. So it's always now. That thing that I say has happened, or it happened, it's happening right now. Us, as we speak, we are at the forefront. We are just at the forefront of the creation itself, as it is happening. You understand? It's not a past thing, it's a now thing. It will forever be a now thing, whether you understand it or not. And those who understand it, it's now. It's like it doesn't make sense for them to think that there's ever been a past or there's always going to be a future, because the now is the now. That's how God sees it. He sees now, whether it's the 25th of December or it's the 2nd of June, it doesn't matter. It's just now. You will say, okay, it's Christmas, it's winter. That's you saying that. You don't have to even say that. You understand that? So don't forget about these other things when you start to talk about God. Don't smear your shit on the image of God. Understand? Clearly look at what you're talking about. Clearly be clear. Actually, don't be clear, because I know by me just saying that a lot of y'all are lost. So let's go forward. And I'm probably not gonna reach the 10, because I want you to develop the right sufficient imagination for you to know what I'm talking about, from your own perspective. I'm probably gonna end at number 5, So now, number 3, right? After God, right, he acknowledged those two sides of himself, right? The creation and the co-creation, which is the God himself initially, no shape, no form, plus God initially himself with a shape and with a form. You understand that? And then once he realizes these two spectrums of himself, right, this realization that I'm talking about is what is called compassion. You understand? Is the surrounding. It's what's surrounding, is the reality of God. As he's looking at his reality, what he sees is him being the unseen, and what is seen of him by him. You understand? Like, it's deep for you to even grasp that. So, but then just know that number 3, right, has to do with the surroundings, in that sense that God acknowledged that he's unseen and that also he's seen. And in that realization, right, a surrounding was a default state for him. He was in his surroundings when he realized that, okay, I can be seen and not seen at the same time. So now, after he realizes that, okay, I can be seen and not be seen at the same time, he starts to observe that within this compassion and these surroundings, there is something else, that I can make or that is there, that is existing. Like I said, that I can make and that is there existing is still the same thing, because us where we are at the forefront. You understand? We are at the now. So when we are trying to look at back, it's pretty much like trying to reach for your old memory in this body. You understand? Even spiritually, when you start to go back, it's like too further for you to even reach. But there's another video, you know. So now, as God, imagine you as God, right? You created this side of yourself. So as you realize that shit, this side of myself is not like this side of myself. But I know that it's the same thing because I was just trying to reflect what is here, right? But it doesn't look like it. You know, it looks more than, you know, it looks more powerful than how I thought I was. You know, he then starts to become aware, right? That awareness, as I say, that distance between him and him, that field, that feeling, that field. I call it compassion because, you know, love, like it's deep, but then that field, that feeling, that space between God and God, right? The creator and the co-creation, the compassion. You realize that there is a space there, right? There is existence there. You know, it is part of him, if I can put it. It is part of him. So now, that's when God created his fourth state. You know, not even created. That's when he became aware. As I said, God doesn't create. He just becomes aware of these things. He's reflecting what already is been there to become aware of it. You know. So even as we are a reflection of God, that's always been within him, so that he can experience himself through us. But that's another thing. You know. So this realization, right, that there is him, there is another co-created reality, right, and then there is the surroundings, you know, the compassion, the ambience, the field, the feeling. You know, he then realized that, okay, this is part of me, right, this field. And then this field, he called it abundance. Why? Because abundance has to do with thoughts, you know, thoughts, creation, mania, things, miniatures, you know, miniature versions of the initial being, you know, which is God. So now God, as he sees the space between him and him, he realized that it's still him, you know. So, but the miniature version of him, the thoughts, you know. So why do I express it as abundance? Because there's abundance of thoughts, you know, there's abundance of thoughts. So that, like, for me, as I said, based upon resonation, thoughts is equals to abundance. When you start to look at the reality that this book is presenting to, you know, the clairvoyance of reality. But that's another video again. So now, that's where the number 4 is derived. That's where the idea of 4 is derived. That's where the idea of thoughts, you know, abundance, having many things that are lesser version but still contribute to the whole circumference. You know, that's where that idea comes from. The 4th evolution of God. You know, now I'm gonna end on the number 5. Né? So the number 5, imagination. You know, they always tell you these people, but they don't know why. They like to say, when you imagine, you have to feel. You know, you have to get the feeling of what you are imagining. If it's something that you want to see in your physical reality, right? Or you want to do, or you want to have, you have to feel it. They don't know why. As I said, abundance, right? That space between. It has thoughts, right? Thoughts are representations of abundance. And then we have imagination, which is another spectrum of abundance. Imagination is like the mother of abundance. You understand? The idea of abundance is derived from the imagery, you know, that is occurring. And by that, we have developed what emotions. You know, when we start, like I said, going back to my initial statement, if you want to experience something, you have to imagine it and then feel it. So that's why I'm saying, as God became aware of these abundance of thoughts, right? As he started to acknowledge each and every one of them, aka imagine about them, you know, as he started to dwell into each and every one of them, think about them, he started to feel them. He started to realize that in the very same way that there is a field right here, that space, there is a possibility to feel within myself, to feel within himself these things that are external, so that he can still remember that he is a one being. Remember, throughout this whole thing, I never said God separated from himself. All I said is just he saw a reflection of himself. That's number 2. And then number 3, as he's just chilling there, right, imagining basically, because right now God is at number 5. So as he's just chilling there, imagining, boom, he sees that, okay, basically this space, right, this compassion, it has something. So that's him pondering, thinking in himself that, oh, I have something within this space of me, and that came thoughts. That's when he realized that the thoughts is the space within me. And as he was chilling, trying to realize that, okay, what are these thoughts? Because as I said, life is an experience of God wanting to experience and know and be himself through every media that is possible to him. So now he's there pondering, looking at these mediums now, their thoughts, their abundance. So he's starting to create the imagination, the image nations, their life that is going to live in the images that is seen. And as I said, life, images are like emotions, they are like expressions, understand? So as God was looking at these thoughts that is roaming within him, basically, as he starts to pick upon each and every thought, right, or as he pays attention to one thought per se, he realizes that, okay, every thought that I look at, I feel myself with it. I feel myself with it. AKA what? That field, that compassion, that love, that imagination. So that's where now we derive, that's where we can come to the point whereby we can realize that there is a wrong and a right, because this is where the wrong and the right was derived by God himself. When he started to realize that as I'm pondering on my abundance as God, on my number 4, on my thoughts, I'm realizing that some of these thoughts, they do not represent who I am. Just like you in this world, when you start to imagine about your life and yourself, you can see, okay, some of these things, they are not who I really am or who I want to be, So that's exactly what we are doing. The very same thing that God did, exactly. There's not even a single difference. Or even if you can see somebody doing something bad to other person, that's God expressing himself in that sense at that particular time, and which again, it didn't have to be that way. If it didn't have to be that way, but if it's that way, then it's that way, like I said. So now basically I just wanted you to understand where the imagination is derived from and how is imagination now, as we look at it from this lower level of life. We look at it as something that is connected to the emotion, because, and this is one thing again, if you want to know if you are awakened or not, a person who's awakened will tell you that the imagination and the emotion go together, and a person who's not awakened, they just think that imagination is like a theater, you just go there and look at bullshit, so those are the difference. We have those two kind of people. We have people who know that imagination is life, and there are people who just look at it as a movie theater. They just be projecting all the kind of bullshit that they want to in their minds, aka they are putting that in the field, aka it's God. Now they are letting God. Anyway, let's leave it at that. Okay, so now that's where now we can be like this. You see, at number 5, I just want to end it here, because you see, at number 5, that's where everything happened. This is the line that separates God from the devil. Even though the devil is just that reflection, the physical reflection of God, and everything that governs it is the demons, the devil. That's what it is, the devolved expression of God, that is down. So here is this. Even the like I said, here it is. The very same thing goes down from number 6 to number 10. We have now the demonic natures of being alive. We have soul cleansing. It has to do with God acknowledging all those wrongs and rights that He has assigned to Himself and actually going back to His initial state, which is number 10, tuning in. Understand? So, like I said, when I say this book is an expression of life, the way it is from every angle, right, that's ever been presented, at least by far. Obviously, I've never read all the books. I've only read probably 20 books in my life, but I've been intentional about how I am reading and what books I'm reading, so that's why I'm even confident to let you know something like this, to push you on something like this, so as I said, I'm gonna leave it at number 5, because at number 5, that's where God ends. That's where the story about God ends. At number 5, imagination. That's where God ends. When you start to go down there, then we are starting to talk about the demonic natures. I'm starting to talk about life, this life here. We are not talking about that life there. We are not talking about life down here. Where now we have to go back there. But from number 1 to number 5 is from there down here. It's God from there to here where we are right now. And then from number 6 to number 10 is God from where we are right now to where He has to be, which is in turn who He truly is, because all God wants to do is experience Himself, which is who He truly is, and there can never be any other way around who He is truly not without acknowledging who He truly is, because that's the initial state of it, who He truly is. And then that's when He created the grand illusion, which is who He is truly not, who we thought He is, when He projects His power externally, His forces, His self, His field, His being. Just like yourself, when you start to make another version of yourself, you make a baby, and then you start to realize that this baby, right, is not really how I had hoped it to be. Either the baby is less than or is more than. Either way, it's still the same shit. So that's what God, that's their thinking process. The mind process that way, because God doesn't think. God doesn't think. He minds. He minds His own business. That's God. He minds His own business. He doesn't think. So when you start to think about other people, or you mind other people's business, then by default you're gonna start to think about them. So like it's deep, but then that's just what I wanted to share to you guys personally for the day, from my book, that I'm very proud that I ended up putting it out there for you guys to indulge in. As I said, it's for my chosen ones. A lot of people, right, they have other people that they can resonate with in the world, but they have a problem of shiny syndrome, whatever. They look at, spirits are always attracted. Spirits are attracted to the light. So everything that seems like a light, everything that seems like information, they'll start to latch on it, without considering if it's actually accurate. Me, I don't give a fuck if it's the president or the smartest person I've looked up to. Like, what they say to me doesn't matter. I just listen. Okay, boom. Oh, is that how you look at life? Okay, that's nice, that's tough, or that's love, whatever. However, I don't give a fuck. You look at life the way you want to look at it. At the end of the day, if you look at my life as being bad, it's just a reflection of your life. You are looking at my life through your lenses, which are bad. So that's all. That's it. See you on the next one.